So it is actually Sunday, so I'm actually getting this to you roughly on time for once. Yeah, it's Sunday. It's Russian Easter. So Carter and I just got off an Easter dinner call, Russian Easter dinner call with her college roommate Annie and her family, which was very nice to be included. This is mostly Carter's connection, obviously. Like, she's very close to the family, but I know the parents, and like both Annie and her sister Stephanie are very close to me. So that was like a nice little call, and that is why I am drinking a martini right now, because vodka, Russians, yay! I started with White Russians and switched over because Carter wanted a martini, and so I made martinis. Anyway, so last time you talked about giving up stuff and what kind of things that is. And so it's true, I haven't, like, quote unquote given up things a lot as a 30-something. That used to be a thing I did very frequently. And the last time I kind of did that from a just cold turkey, I'm going to quit this kind of thing, was kind of a sadder moment that I will get to in a minute. But as like a 30-something, I have given up a few things, but those ones are usually pushed by health reasons. So like, so my teeth are bad, and you know my teeth are bad. Like, that's not news to you or anyone who knows me very well. But what people nowadays may not know is that I used to be a massive soda drinker, like a massive Coca-Cola, Pepsi, etc. kind of consumer. That used to be a big thing for me, and it's not anymore. So when I moved back to DC initially, so this was 2015, I had a root canal. I like my teeth started to like really get bad, and I had like a particularly bad incident, and that was the big moment where I was like, you know what, I'm done with soda. And for the most part, I've been good. There have been a few exceptions that I have taken, specifically where it's like, all right, it's literally the only thing that they're offering. Or recently, during the quar, I've raided the soda fridge because I've needed caffeine, and we've been like at a loss for cream and stuff like that at my office. So there have been a few times where I've like fudged it, but for the most part, I've been pretty good about it. Like, I don't buy sodas anymore. The only things that I keep in my house are ginger ale and seltzer. And most of that is because of them as mixers, although I do drink a lot of seltzer by itself. The flavored seltzer, I like berry seltzers. That's because I am 5, just bigger. But yeah, I've moved on from that. So I wanted to talk about things that I have quit before for Lent, for those kind of reasons, and then a thing that had become a ritual, and then that I moved on from for both good and bad reasons. But so the one that first comes to mind outside the last like big give up was I used to give up video games a lot for Lent. So a particular one I think about is freshman year of college. I was spending a lot of time getting into the modding scene for a game called Warcraft 3. You probably remember it, kind of. There was a movie based on it. World of Warcraft is really big, but this was a game in the series, and I got really into level editing, and I was like trying to build a campaign, but I was super into that. I also, as I don't think it's weird, didn't have the best relationship with my freshman year roommates. It happens when like all of them are good guys who I've been happy to see since and whatnot, but like I know I was a bit of a shit when I was 18, and I'm pretty sure everyone was a bit of a shit when we were 18, and so it's not shocking that we had some friction, and for the most part it was gone by the time we graduated college, and definitely gone now. Like, super happy to see everyone now, but then it was there. So yeah, so I used to be really big into it, and so for Lent freshman year, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna quit. Except I kind of fucked up with it. I quit playing the game, but I kept working on the mod because I saw that as like, this is me writing a story. Little did I know, over the summer my computer hard drive would crash and I would lose everything. Because, that was an attempt at doing those kind of things, like giving up video games. And I used to do those earlier in life. As I got older, I would typically take breaks from drinking. That was the most frequent kind of thing. And so, I mean, clearly I'm not doing that right now, because it's the core. when I was younger, I'd do that a lot. And so the last time I did like a concerted break was post the 1,000 beer challenge. So just as a reminder for the outside world, because Krista, I think you remember this one, and a lot of people who would watch this video probably remember this one. But in about 2012, I got into one of those conversations you have at a bar. I was talking with some friends, Matt Gallant, Andrew Burdack, and Ryan Allen were the ones in particular. And we were talking about how big is a cubic yard of beer and how long would that take to drink. And so we did some math and we're like, all right, so it ranges in terms of size and whatnot. But we can all agree that it's more than 1,000. It's more than 1,000. Okay, no question about that. How long does it take to drink 1,000 beers? So we set up Google Docs spreadsheets, and we set up a system for all of us logging our stuff, and we invited some other friends, and we just were curious, like, how long will it take to drink 1,000 beers? And this spanned multiple jobs for me, going from working at a bar where I was able to drink while I was on shift, and so I was like plugging away, to working nights at a theater, and then ultimately working events at a theater and being actually on like the office staff. And it was during then that I hit the end of that challenge, and that happened a little early for Lent. And I explicitly was like, all right, you know what, I'm gonna just do this break until approximately my birthday, which, you know, would put it at after Lent, but it was like a little bit longer. And I was like, you know what, I drank a lot of beer, I put on a lot of weight, like all the things that I like caused me to put the weight back on after I dropped a bunch after college. This was the thing that like pushed me over the edge. I was like Fat Mac trying to be like, no, I've gained mass, and no, I got fat. But this corresponded with the time when Uncle Bob passed away, and when Grandma died, and that caused me to end the self-imposed dry period prematurely, not by a lot, but by a few weeks, and it was pretty sad, and it was during like a rough time at work for me, and I remember distinctly being like, oh god, I never want to do this kind of give up again, because I was getting hangovers for literally anything. Any amount of drinking was pushing me over the edge, and that sucked. And it was all part of this like deep sadness I was feeling at the time, and it was a really sad time for me in general. So I kind of, with that, was like, you know what, this kind of cold turkey test yourself kind of thing is kind of bullshit, and I kind of just said I couldn't do it anymore, because like those kind of like tests of willpower are not ultimately that hard. Like they're hard for the time, but they are not teaching you to be better about a thing. And so that was kind of a wake up call / I don't know what it was. Like, I'm not going to pretend that I'm the healthiest person in the world now, or that I have all the right answers, but I know that for me, proper growth requires me to sort of internalize it and actually make changes, and not just say, okay, I'm going to like fast for a chunk or diet for a chunk. Like, for me, I really need to like integrate into my life better workout routines, and I need to integrate into my life better eating as a whole. It's not just about like jump starting it, because I revert too quickly when I come out on the other end. So that's like the big one that sort of stands out to me directly. More power to you for doing those social media cleanses. I've deleted the apps from my phone before. The only reason that they're all back on my phone now is that so Facebook I put back on my phone mostly just so that I could do stuff related to my podcast network. Put a pin in that one. But Twitter, I'm not ready to give up on. Twitter, I think, is beautiful in its terribleness, because so I have made this comparison, and years ago I talked about this as an idea for like a sci-fi thing before everyone had smartphones, where it's like, could you imagine like the interconnected world where you have access to everyone's social media profiles and emails and so forth? And at the time, I was referring to it as like an extension of the BlackBerry effect, which is that once business people started to have smartphones in the office, eventually everyone who worked in business had to be able to connect by email remotely. Like, that just became a default thing. And I would argue that eventually we'd get there for everything. Little did I know, about a year after I made that prediction, the iPhone came out and everyone's got it. But I thought eventually we'd get to this point where technology would replace our sci-fi concepts of psychic connections. That the idea that we could all be linked in this sort of like world mind kind of like Avatar style thing, or Avatar being like the James Cameron Avatar where it's like linked to the tree. Although Avatar, The Last Airbender also works, or whatever. Or like this psychic plane kind of concept. All of that, I thought, didn't actually have to be a naturally occurring thing. It could be through artificial steps. And I thought that a thing like Twitter does that. And I thought that email does that. And text message does that. All of these are things that connect people without actually using words and traditional means of communication. And we're at that point now. Like, I'm often in conversations with people where I'm texting with people in the same room, or certainly now in the core times, like in this time where a lot of my conversations are me talking into a microphone and having a camera record me communicating with people, and that I am talking to them by way of this like video chat that there are multiple people on, and then separately having written conversations going with people. For example, last week we did another big D&D session. I did not record this one because it was kind of like a crazy fight, which is not very good video. And we were all texting each other throughout it, and then afterwards I had separate text messages with everyone who played, including couples who, like, theoretically, they're both aware of the messages that I'm sending to the other ones, but it was because here's a private conversation I'm having with someone that they can summarize if they choose to their friends and partners, and then here's the broader conversation I'm having with everyone. And that's psychic communication, as we used to define it in like 50s Pulp Fiction. It's amazing. So I can't give up Twitter. I can't say that it is not without merit, because it is with merit. I've seen it have merit. I interviewed an artist for Men of Steel, one of my podcasts. The artist is named Derek Robertson. He was the co-creator of the series Transmetropolitan, which is a great series about journalism and politics in like this sci-fi setting. It's very Hunter S. Thompson kind of crazy person kind of thing. And the way this all happened is because I praised a person online, a journalist that I like, and I compared him to Spider Jerusalem and tagged Derek Robertson and Warren Ellis, the two co-creators. And that the journalist I praised was like, nah, man, those guys did such a cool thing. And all of a sudden he got into a conversation with Derek where they were just like complimenting each other, because this journalist, who is on Twitter as I Write Okay, his name is Robert Evans, although that is a pen name. He said that was one of the things that inspired him to get into journalism, and they went back and forth, and it was like really good to see, because, you know, for every horrible interaction that I have had on Twitter, there's every now and then these like good ones, like people who I have positively interacted with, that I can't condemn the platform as a whole just because people are innately shitty. There is good stuff to be had out there, and that's really cool, and it's fun to connect with people that way. So that's why I can't do those kind of social media purges, because I'm not ready to fully give up a thing that I see so much potential in. And as a result, I have made some cool connections that, this is the pen. Certain POV is growing. My podcast network has gotten a lot bigger. Just like my hair. My hair has gotten so much bigger. We just added a bunch of shows. It's really cool. A lot of them are people who I have worked with distantly, and now we've connected. So I'm really excited about that. And this is the first video I've done since this all occurred. So I want to give shout outs to the Rob Thomas No Not That One Robcast, which is a series about the works of writer, show producer Rob Thomas, who is the creator of Veronica Mars and iZombie, and has worked in a lot of TV. The Circle of Friendship podcast, which is a show about, it's a book club for the Circle of Magic book series, which I have not read, but the people behind it are great, and I'm excited for it. And they post a lot of pictures about cats, and so that's awesome. We also want to say hey to Dole Whip and Dreams, which my friend Maddie Ryan Limerick, who I haven't seen in person in probably 7 years, but we talk all the time online. He has been a great guest on my shows. He does a show about history of Disney and like the dramaturgical approach to Disney's works. And then Let's Rewatch, which are a bunch of really cool guys people who I met through one person in person, but then after that, the rest I just goddamn adore, and they're great, and they do a cool podcast about movies and like about nostalgia, and I appreciate all of that stuff. So great stuff that they're doing, and I just want to give shout outs to them, because you know what, like, we are all alone right now. We're all separated. We all feel strange being near each other. Like, even Carter and I, living in the same house, feel strange because I have to go to work and like come back, and like there is separation by virtue of like I'm out there seeing this stuff and talking to people, dealing with truck drivers and all that. We're all alone, but there are ways that we can be together. There are technological ways that we can connect with people, and that's incredible. And that's a thing that is so amazing about the time that we live in. Like, there's moments where it's just like, we live in the future, and the future is a terrible thing. Like, you know, that we wrote movies about, like, oh, these are all the awful shit that'll happen. And there's cool stuff that we predicted that just hasn't happened. My friends Matt and Jeff did a show about how the distant year 2000 was upon us soon. Or rather, it's already passed 20 years ago now. But it used to be like the benchmark of like, yeah, we'll have flying cars by then. And we don't have flying cars. We don't have jetpacks. We don't have all those cool things. But we can read each other's thoughts by virtue of a little black slate that we keep in our pocket. And that's incredible. And so maybe, I guess the theme for you for next week is, what's kind of incredible about this time? I've speculated on how technology has allowed us to connect in weird ways and cool ways, and do things in amazing angles and whatnot that we previously couldn't. What is great that you're experiencing right now? What, like, are you connecting with friends in ways that you couldn't before, or didn't have time to before? I know you're doing like fitness videos. Like, is that a big part of it? We're doing this video series. Like, that's a future element of our life. So what are you seeing today that feels like it should be a part of tomorrow?